So, my whole point behind this is I am trying to prove to you guys that Zionism is nothing more than just a Satan worship movement, a Satan worship organization, an occultist organization. Throughout the history of Israel, it has really fascinated me in the past 2 years. That really opened up my eye, and I've always been wondering, why is this state the way it is? They claim to be God's chosen people. Heck, if you look in the Talmud, well, if you're not born of a Jewish lineage, well, you're nothing more than just a cattle, a goyim, somebody that can get rid of. Heck, some rabbi even said that one Jewish person's life is far more important than 1,000 goyim, also known as 1,000 non-Jews. Now, we all understand something. Anybody who's religious, you understand that God is not somebody who's, racist. Depending on the religion, of course. When you go to Hinduism, well, they also have class system, which, let's be honest, I disagree with that. That's a whole different topic in of itself. When it comes to Christianity, Christians, well, they don't believe that, if you're a Christian, you're better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? If you're born or whatever, you're better than everybody else. Muslim, we also don't have that belief system. Christians believe everybody's welcome to be a Christian. Muslims believe everybody's welcome to be a Muslim. But when it comes to the special race, when it comes to the chosen people, God's chosen people, well, they actually don't encourage people to join their religion. Rather, if you're somebody who is curious and want to be part of the Jewish religion, they actually try to tell you not to join. They try to motivate you not to join. So in conclusion, according to them, you were born to go to hellfire. And to me, that's unjust. And so based off of all these beliefs, there's more, but just to sum it off, I've always been curious. What happened in history? What caused these people to deviate away from what God has taught? Because that's just one example that I can teach you guys, is that God's not racist. God's not going to go ahead and pick a specific group of people to enter paradise. Meanwhile, the other are doomed to be in the hellfire for all of eternity. And so, where can we start? I wondered. Okay, well, what is something that they use today as a way of symbolism? Something that they use as a way of saying, this represents us. I looked, thought to myself, I was like, okay, the flag. The flag is a very, very unique flag. Not many people really know much about it. The only thing that people know about it is, oh, it's the Star of David, and then the two lines represent the Nile, from the Nile River to the Euphrates River. And so, there you go. It has the Star of David in between. Now, something really, really fascinated me. Something very, very interesting. Why did they call it the Star of David? And my question was, does the Star of David go back to David? The answer that it gave me was no. The Star of David does not directly originate from the King David, but rather it's a name, a shield of David. Gained prominence later in the Middle Age, with the 6-point star becoming a symbol of Judaism around the 17th century after the appearing in Jewish and even non-Jewish context. Cool, but that wasn't sufficient enough. I don't believe. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have a hard time believing that. And so I looked a little bit more. David had a son. Who was that son, you may wonder? Well, his name is Solomon, right? We'll get to that later. But before I went to Solomon, there was a rumor that I've also heard that rather than it being the Star of David, rather it was the Star of Rampham. It's the Star of Rampham. And I was wondering, okay, so now that we got that out of the way, who is Rampham? Rampham, also known as Ranthan, was a false god or a symbol of one worshipped by the ancient Israelites. So, he was a false god that was worshipped by the ancient Israelite. Now we're starting to make sense. I don't know much about the Christian perspective of it, but when you go into the Quranic perspective, the Islamic perspective, there's a lot of emphasis on who Solomon was. And the reason this is because Solomon is somebody who was given a massive amount of, I guess you can call power, or if you want to use theology, you could say miracle. What was Solomon's miracle, you may be wondering? According to Islam, Solomon's miracle was he had power over the wind. He had power over demons, jinns, or in today's modern age, we call them aliens. Many people during his time was wondering, okay, how does he have power over these things? Quran is the only one that pretty much talks about the reason why this was given to Solomon. But people are always going to be curious. Now, if you look into the Islamic perspective, Islam tells us how Solomon became so powerful. If you see in Surah Sad, which is the 38th chapter of the Quran, in verse 35, it says Prophet Solomon asked Allah for forgiveness and a kingdom unmatched by any after him, stating, "My Lord, forgive me and grant me a kingdom such will not belong to anyone after me. Indeed, you are bestowed." This prayer followed a test from Allah during which a symbolic mere body was placed on his throne, leading him to turn to God. Although this throne was a dream that Solomon had, the dream was who? The Antichrist sitting on his throne. That's a whole different topic in of itself. But after Solomon made this prayer, which was to give him something that is unmatched and nobody that will come after him will ever have something like that. And what does God say? In the Quran, God follows it up by saying, so we subjected him with the wind, blowing gently at his command to wherever he pleased. And we subjected to him every builder and diver of the jinn, and other bound together in chains. Allah said, this is our gift, so give or withhold as you wish, never to be called to account. That right there was the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Solomon. One thing that you will understand is that jinns are a very fascinating creature. These are creatures that sees us in places in which we don't see them. They're able to do things that we cannot fathom. What is one of the things that jinns have the capability of doing? They're able to dive underwater, go really deep, and retrieve items such as pearls or gold. And this is what Solomon used to build his kingdom. And if you heard me early on, I said that human beings are very curious. They're always wondering, how was he able to obtain all this kingdom? How does he have the ability to control all these animals? Have such massive army from both the animals, the jinn, and mankind? Rumors started to spread. People were wondering. And people were saying, well, it's magic. That's only what they couldn't answer the question. They don't know how he had the ability to do this. And so they assumed that Solomon dealt in magic. And so God responded back to them. So once people were wondering how Solomon was able to control all these animals and all these jinn have such huge power, later down the line, when they started to say Solomon was a magician and these rumors started to spread around, God sent two angels. Their name is Harut and Marut. These two angels came to them and they told the people what Solomon did was not magic. Rather, it was a miracle from God. But according to some scholars, they say the angels taught the people magic. Some say, no, rather, the angels told the people, you can go to this location and there you can learn magic. So now that you have that context, this is what God said. They instead followed the magic promoted by the devil during the reign of Solomon. Never did Solomon disbelieve. Rather, the devil disbelieved. They taught magic to the people along with what had been revealed to the two angels, Harut and Marut, in Babylon. The two angels never taught anyone without saying, we are only a test for you, so do not abandon your faith. Yet people learn magic that caused a rift between two people, husband and a wife. Although their magic could not harm anyone except by the will of Allah, they learned what harmed them and did not benefit them. Although they already knew that whatever buys into magic would have no share in the hereafter. Miserable indeed was the price of which they sold their soul. If only they knew. So, now that you have the context, Allah tells us that the people during the time of Solomon, in fact, learned magic. So now that you know that, does the Ring of Solomon make a lot more sense now? Does the Star of Renfam make a lot more sense now? And the reason it makes a lot of sense, in case you missed it, is because if you look at the Ring of David, the Ring of Solomon, and then on top of that, them believing that Solomon was somebody who dealt in magic, now you start to connect the dot, and it starts to make a little bit more sense as to why I believe Zionism today is a satanic movement that has started by some occultists. So now, before we move on to the modern age and the stuff that Zionists have done to prove that they're nothing more than just satanic worship, cult, whatever you want to call them. Before I get to that, there was something very, very fascinating that made me think. And that is when it comes to the dream of Solomon. I wanted to dive a little bit into that so that way I can make some correlation. Perhaps it may help some of you guys out there. Now, before I go ahead and give you guys this correlation, I'm not a scholar. I'm just looking at this and I couldn't think of any other way to interpret this in my mind. And I've looked up to see if I can find some answer to it. But so whatever I'm going to say, please, for the sake of God, take it with a grain of salt. And maybe this might help you perhaps understand this verse a little bit better than I could. Now, indeed, we tested Solomon placing a deformed body on his throne. Then he turned to Allah in repentance. He prayed, "My Lord, forgive me and grant me an authority that will never be matched by anyone after me. You are indeed the giver of all bounties." Now, with this verse being mentioned in the Quran, I think that the reason why Allah showed Suleiman this dream of a body on his throne is because I think God was trying to tell Suleiman that there will come people in the future who will try to obtain or have a kingdom like his. And so he decided to, of course, pray to God saying, "Please give me a kingdom," as we just read, "that nobody's going to have after me." Now, if we move to the modern age today, with everything that I have just said that's related to Suleiman, I think that the body that Suleiman saw in his dream was a representation of a failed kingdom that is yet to come. When you look at modern age Zionism, when you look at the idea of Greater Israel, they are trying to create a piece of land that will pretty much rule the world. The Jews believe that when their Messiah returns, they will rule the whole world, and the non-Jews are going to be slaves to them. Who is the Messiah, you may be wondering? Well, Christians believe that the Messiah has already came, which is Jesus. Muslims, we also believe the same thing. So the only person that has not yet came is the Antichrist. And so I think that the body that Solomon saw in his dream was the Antichrist. God was telling him there will be people in the future who will try to have a kingdom like yours. And so when Solomon made that dream, God accepted the dream. The reason it was a dead body or an empty vessel is because it's a failed kingdom that's going to try to be recreated. The moment the state of Israel was created, it was already a failure from the beginning. Why? Because the land that they picked already had people. So you can't really rule a land, call it a home without people and a people without home, because there were already people in Palestine. So the moment the state of Israel was created, the moment they had the idea to recreate a kingdom like that of Solomon, they failed from the beginning. One, there's already people on there. Two, Solomon made that prayer and God accepted it. And the prayer was specified. Give me a kingdom like the one nobody who come after me could ever have. And so now they're trying to create a kingdom like Solomon, which is why they call it the third temple of Solomon. And who's going to be the one ruling from that kingdom is going to be the Antichrist, which is whom? The Messiah that they're waiting for. Does everything start to make sense now? Now, again, this is just what I think. It may not be 100% correct. It may not be 100% correct. But this is my guess as to why Solomon had that dream. Why they're trying to create the third temple of Solomon. So that way, the Messiah can return, rule from the temple of Solomon, rule the whole world from the temple of Solomon, because Solomon has such huge power that pretty much nobody could stand in his way. He had animals, wind, human beings, and jinn on his side. He had control over these things. So his army was all around, so nobody could stop him. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go into modern age. One thing you will understand throughout history, okay, it's that interest is something that has been forbidden in all of the Abrahamic religion. Christianity, Islam, I'll go as far as saying even Judaism. But of course, the Jews also believe that the word of the rabbi supersedes that of the word of God. They even believe that one of the prophets actually fought God and won. Now you make sense of that. But one thing that we understand is that interest is extremely dangerous to society, to the whole race of humankind. That's one of the reasons why they've been kicked out of so many countries, 109 to be more precise. Interest is one of the reasons why. That's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why. God forbid interest. Now, why would they deal in interest? Because they understand if you control the money, you pretty much control the whole entire land. And the fact that God forbid interest and they decide to indulge in it, doesn't that mean that, well, they might be following the footsteps of the devil? Because if God forbid something, the devil is the only one that will say, actually, you can do that thing. That's one example. Two, they took people's land, killing innocent people, thousands of them. From 1948 all the way to today, you do the math. Heck, we're probably in the millions by now. That's two. Three, the whole state of Israel was pretty much founded by nothing but a bunch of terrorists. Haganah, Argun, Lehi. And these are it right here. And keep in mind, these people became prime minister of the state. So when you put 2 and 2 together, do you honestly think that God is going to allow you to create a terrorist organization where you're going to blow up places like King David Hotel, pillage innocent people from their homes, so that way you can annex them and flood in your group of people? Do you think God would want that? I'm not going to answer this. You answer it for yourself. I'm just here to make you think. That's it. So these are the three who were, well, the leaders. So leader of the Jewish terrorist organization, Stern Gang. Leader of the Jewish terrorist organization, Haganah. Leader of the Jewish terrorist organization, Argun. So already, the establishment of the state of Israel was found on bloodshed. Now, before I continue, I just want to go ahead and show you guys this little quick 3-minute video.
You're both welcome. Come. Of course we'll let you in.
My maternal grandmother was born in Haifa because after the Armenian genocide, the stories that my grandmother told my mother about how the Palestinian Muslims treated Armenian refugees who were obviously overwhelmingly Christian was incredible. They were welcoming.
As Jews moved to Palestine, Palestinians were welcoming them because they saw the Jewish people coming in as brothers and sisters escaping persecution.
To Zionists here and everywhere.
These people came on ships holding up signs about World War II saying, please, we're refugees, let us into your home. And the Palestinians opened their doors to them. This is the story of Muhammad Hadid and Bella Hadid. Yeah, the model, Gigi Hadid. His mother had just given birth. They allowed these refugees, these Polish refugees, to live in their homes as refugees because they wanted to help them following a world war.
We let you into our homes when your own countries tried to murder you and everyone else turned you away. We fed you and we clothed you. We gave you shelter and we shared from the bounty of our land with you.
And then one day,
and when the time was ripe,
Palestinians who were letting Jewish Europeans live in their homes come home and they find the locks changed. And they were like, wait, why can't I get into my home? And then the family, the Israeli family on the inside just simply wouldn't open the door, wouldn't talk to them, wouldn't let them in.
They came back to their houses and the doors were locked. They came home, the doors were locked, and guns were being held, and they were told, leave right now, or some soldiers are going to come murder you.
You kicked us out of our homes and homeland. Then you killed and robbed and burned and looted our lives.
Do you guys understand? Just go through that in your head.
And so, in the mind of the Palestinian, this was just an upending of, wait a minute, we welcome you in, we put you in our house, we fed you, and then the first opportunity you had, you stole our home from us. They couldn't reconcile this.
You carved out our hearts because it is clear that you do not know how to live in the world without dominating others. But the world is finally glimpsing the terror we have endured at your hands for so long. And they are seeing the reality of who you are and who you've always been.
Imagine your family has lived on that land for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then you say, oh, you know what, the Ukrainian war is happening right now, I feel really bad. I'm going to allow a Ukrainian to live in my house, maybe here in Tennessee. And you allow them and you share with them and you do this out of the kindness of your heart. And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked and those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That's a fact. No one can dispute that. There was no money. There was no trade. There was no conversation. They were effectively hijacked in their own homes. So the entire story of Israel has been immoral.
So now that you got that picture in your mind, do you seriously think that God is going to allow something like that to happen? And if we do a bunch of digging and history and stuff like that, you will understand that, well, these people, these so-called Jews, a lot of these people are European. They're from Poland, Ukraine, you name it, Germany. They're from these areas. The prime minister that is seated right now, his grandparent, Poland. He was raised in America, went to university here, but he's Polish. That's why DNA testing is not allowed over there. So this is my guess. This is why I am what I'm predicting. I'm sorry. It's not really a prediction. Rather, I genuinely believe it's a fact. Now, here's why I say that. Theodore Herzl was the founder of Zionism, and this guy was nothing more than a staunch atheist. He didn't believe in God. So how can you say that this land was promised to you by a deity that you don't believe in? You know, that is something that's very, very interesting to me. Even to this day, you got Israelis who are literally dying for a land that they claim was promised to them by a God that they don't believe in. So that's another reason why I also believe that, well, Zionism is just a satanic movement. And now, I also believe that the religion, that Judaism in of itself has been hijacked to further, to use as a means for settler colonialism. Because Jews were very, very, I guess you can say, a group of people that they can use to further their goal. If you understand the Torah, you will also understand that they don't believe that they are allowed to take any land until the Messiah returns. This is their belief system. That's what they believe. but instead a fringe group of people, perhaps Frankists. That's a whole different topic, but there's a prediction. Some people saying that perhaps there are Frankists that infiltrated the religion of Judaism and they manipulated the Jews. They told them, hey, you have to take this land by force. These people hate you, even though they welcome them in the land. If they hate you, why would they welcome you in the first place? They say that these people hate you. You have to pick up the guns and fight. And of course, well, being persecuted so long all over the world, being kicked out of 109 countries, it was extremely easy. And especially the Holocaust just ended. So it was really, really easy for them to say, he's right. We have to either pick up the gun and fight, or it's going to be Holocaust all over again. And so that's exactly what they did. To this day, they're fighting the people in Palestine. But let me tell you something. They're not going to succeed. They're not going to succeed. It's not because of the dream of Solomon that I just explained, but rather it's because oppressors in the land never succeed. And I can give you examples like Nimrod. He was an oppressor of the land. He failed. The Pharaoh, he was an oppressor on the land. He also failed. Now, if you look at the Islamic perspective, we also have people like Thamud. They were a group of nations that were oppressing on the land and worshiping idols. They failed. Ad is another group of people. They also failed. Do you start to see a pattern here? God only gave oppressor so many chances, so finite amount of time for them to continue their oppression until eventually he steps in, and then that's it. Into this, we are now seeing the downfall of Zionism. It is happening right before our own eyes. It's just a matter of time now before it falls. But one thing that I've always been wondering is this. Why is it that the whole world has woken up and everybody in the world, besides the politicians, they don't like the state of Israel, but they persist on unaliving innocent people? And I think I know why. It's because they are trying to grow as much, they are trying to make as much people in the world as possible to hate the Jews. So that way the Jews have nowhere to return, except for the state of Israel. That's my guess. So they're continuing with the oppression. Because if the Jews feel unsafe all over the world, they have no other place but to go to the state of Israel. And when that happens, they want to use those Jews to proceed on taking over the lands. And now for my final reason as to why I believe that this Zionism is nothing more than just an occultist movement. The reason I believe it is because, well, when have you ever really seen Netanyahu go to a church, or not even a church? I'm sorry, he's not a Christian. When have you ever seen Netanyahu at a synagogue praying? Yes, you'll see him quoting verses of the Bible here and there, quoting verses like the verse about the Amalekite. And they always like to invoke that idea of, oh, God's chosen people. Oh, we're God's chosen people. They like to claim that. A lot of these people don't believe in God, by the way, but yet they claim that they're God's chosen people. But what if I tell you that they're actually right? They are God's chosen people. But before I show you why they're God's chosen people, first, you have to understand that God can mean anything. When they say God's chosen people, they don't really specify which God. Automatically, they expect you to know or to assume that this God is a God of, you can say the God of Muslims, Allah, or you can say Yahweh, Jesus, or since they don't believe in Jesus, well, whatever other God that they have in mind. They expect you to automatically imagine some kind of God in your mind, which is why I say that they are right, but simultaneously they're wrong. They're God and they're goddess. You can even call the devil God. You can call Hindu God a God. Vishnu, Brahma, Hanuma. You can call any of these things God. You can even call a rock God. But they're not the actual God. They're not the true God. Rather, you have to be very specific on what God you are invoking. And when have you ever seen them invoke a specific God? It's never happened, has it? And so with that context in mind, every single time they say God promised us this land, I want you to think to yourself, what if the one that they're actually talking about could be the devil? Because the devil is a massive deceiver. He's a liar. And so the carnage that they have caused in Palestine, the damage that they have caused, the thousands of innocent people that they have caused, that they have killed. What if their God is the devil and the devil is asking them to do all of these things? Because you got to understand, when human beings are oppressive to themselves, the devil is extremely happy. When human beings cause corruption on land, he's happy. He motivates them to keep doing it. Based off of what we've seen in the last 2 years, let's not go all the way back to 70 years ago. Based off of what we see in the last 2 years, with your own two eyes, can you seriously sit there and think to yourself and be like, Allah or Jesus, whatever God you believe in, do you seriously think that that God is going to allow that to happen? Seriously think about that. And then let's not get to the child trafficking situation. Let's not get to the Epstein situation. They are blackmailing politicians using little kids. Do you think God will allow that? They are usurping the wealth of a nation, places like America, with interest. People are dying under the amount of debt that they have to carry, and they have to go to work, can't even spend time with the kid just to pay off the interest, let alone the loan that they've taken. Do you think God is going to enslave a group of people like that? I've made other videos in the past how some of the rabbi are indulged in pornography, and they use that to spread among the youth here in America to weaken them. Do you think God's gonna want that? They know the dangers of porn, which is why it's banned in Israel. They know the danger of it. But here in America, you're free to indulge in it. There's a place like OnlyFans promoting nudity, promoting young girls to, well, open up their legs on the internet so they can make a few quick cash. Do you think God's gonna allow that? And keep in mind, rabbis, religious leaders, they're the one who's promoting this. You have to understand that these people have a mindset. And what's that mindset? You are to be ruled over. We can do whatever we want with you. We can promote gambling among you. We can promote alcohol among you. We can promote adultery among you. We can promote all these degenerate acts that would destroy you, both physical and mentally among you. But us, no, we don't get to do that to ourselves because we know the dangers of it. Look around you. Look at the damage that's being caused with all of these stuff that I just mentioned. Gambling, alcohol, you name it. Things that are destroying society from within is being promoted. Our politicians are screwing little kids so they can be blackmailed. They're taking the need of the state of Israel over the people in America. And then you got politicians running around talking about, oh, those who bless the state of Israel will be blessed themselves. Really? Really? Since the creation of the state of Israel, America has been spending trillions of dollars on war. The Middle East has been completely destabilized. Do you think God would want that for the world? The state of Israel, we now understand that they have something that's called the Samson option. What's the Samson option? Once they're existing, till threatened, well, they have over 200 nukes. They'll just let it go in every direction. Do you think God wants that? Look at the action that they do. Don't listen to their words. they will come on the news, on podcasts, on whatever, and then they'll do all these word salad. Oh, we're the victim. Oh, October 7th. Oh, look at poor us. Meanwhile, these people have caused a lot of damage in the land. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, when you tell them to stop causing corruption, rather they say we are nothing more than peacemakers.
Peace. We are peace seekers. We went to peace with our neighbors time and time again.
قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون.
That's what they say. We are nothing more than just peacemakers. If you understand that the state of Israel is controlling America, you will understand that guess what? The fact that the Middle East has been nothing but just war on top of war. Why do you think that is? It's because they don't want any competitions in that area. They don't want any other country to have nuke in that area. That's why they're trying to go to war with Iran. I'm giving you all these because I don't believe that God will want this for the world. I believe that this movement is seriously being motivated by nothing more than the devil. And so as a conclusion, think about what I have to say. If you made it this far, just understand that I'm nothing more than just a layman. I just wanted to go ahead and just spread this message, tell you guys what I see and hear, because, well, a lot of people are waking up, and I want to be a part of that group. And with that being said, if you made it this far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And seriously, it took me a while to make this video. A lot of thought went through this. If I'm wrong, that's on me. I'm a layman. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm right, hey, praise be to God for that. Praise be to Allah. And I'll catch you guys up later.